¿Qué tal, Jesús? ¿Qué tal?
¿Qué tal, Hugo?
Eh, Hi, Anna, I don't know.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Anna. I am Hugo Ponce from Mexico. I'm
Good
not
to
from
meet you.
Veseris, but I work with Veseris.
Excellent.
Hi, nice to meet you.
You as well.
Well, I don't know which one's the best option in order to record this event, this talk with you. If you prefer that the questions, I made the questions in English and you answer, or I made the question in Spanish and you answer in English. Well, obviously, I told you in English first.
That would be helpful.
Obviously, you know that the recording could be in Spanish and English, and your part will be subtitled, and my part will be in Spanish. I don't know which. I guess
Whatever
it's
your
the
preference
best, no?
is, yeah. I can do it either way.
So because the audience will be mostly uh, Mexicans and Latin American people.
Sure.
That's why.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's fine.
So in sorry, my English is very rusty.
You're
I don't know
fine.
how do you say? Well, before we start, I don't know. You can read the plan of this interview or something. Have you any question, any doubt? I don't know.
I don't
It's
think
okay for you.
so.
It's okay for you.
Yeah, what I was sent was a breakdown of the different parts of the interview. And then it looked like there was maybe 3 main questions that I would speak to, if that's right. And
Yes.
that's fine with me.
Three, maybe four. Well, the quality of equipments, uh, advice about buying equipments, and at the end, I don't know if you want some advice about the homemade equipments that appear in the market, mainly after the pandemic. It's okay for you?
Yep, that's fine. We can talk about disinfection and things that came after COVID-19.
Perfect. So, if you want, we can start. Jesús, no sé, ¿qué opinas? Bueno, podemos empezar. Tiene las preguntas, excepto la última, pero se la puedo hacer. Y si quieres, yo hago primero la pregunta en inglés a Anne, luego que ella nos responda, y después, si quieres al terminar, también para no detener tanto a Ana, hago las 3 preguntas o las 4, las que surjan en español, y las editan y las ponen primero en español y la respuesta de ella en inglés subtitulada. ¿Está bien?
Sí, está bien, suena bien.
O sea, ya lo editan. Digo, sobre todo porque como va para personas en español, pues si nada más leen lo de Ana, es más fácil para ellos.
Claro.
¿Sí?
Sí,
Okay.
así me parece bien.
Okay. So, if you want, you are ready, we can start.
Great.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for accept that he stay here with us. I don't know if you can saw the another interviews before or something about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
would you like me to tell you a little bit about myself?
Please.
Okay. So my name is Anna Berry, and I am the technical director for Pelsis for the United States. And Pelsis has lots of brands, of which B&G is one that you guys are very familiar with and work with the most, I believe. I have about 22 years in pest control. So I used to work in the service industry and do pest control, and then more recently moved over to Pelsis for manufacturing. My responsibilities are training and new product development, and then I handle regulatory for all of the brands that come through North America.
Perfect. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
You are VCE, no?
Yes, I'm a board certified entomologist. Yes.
Nice to meet you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, today we will talk about equipment, not insects, but well, insects indirectly, obviously.
Yeah.
But okay, if I will read the questions, in if you can help us with your answer, right?
Sure.
Okay. First of all, okay, again, welcome. And Anna, today, pesticides is the main tool used for PCOs, for pest control operators. In addition of talking about pesticides themselves, the mixtures, the doses, the quality, in fact, sometimes the PCOs forget the importance of select the best equipment for the job. Would you speak about this point, the elements or your recommendations in order to get or to buy the best equipment for PCOs, please?
Yeah, so that's a really important question because formulations are only going to be good if they work with the correct equipment. So you could have the best formulation ever, but if you put it in the wrong machine, you're not going to get the results that you expect, right? So it's very much a partnership between the formulation and the piece of equipment that you choose. B&G specializes in liquid delivery systems. So our portfolio has sprayers, it has foggers, aerosols, mists. And whenever you're trying to choose what type of equipment you want to actually use with a formulation, you really got to look at what you're trying to apply and what you're applying it to. So if you are applying to a surface, right, maybe to a table or to a wall or to a tree, then you might use something like a sprayer, which is going to get that liquid into these larger droplets to land on the surface. But if you're applying to the air, perhaps we're doing mosquito control or fly control, and we want that droplet to end up in the air, we actually want smaller droplets so that we produce sort of a fog. So knowing what our end goal is and what our target is really going to dictate the best equipment. We also want to look at how big the area is that we're applying. If we are treating, the air, we're going to probably want to use a fogger and probably a big fogger, right? But if we're just treating part of a building, we may want to use a backpack sprayer. So all of these things will play into part what is an appropriate equipment for the job. Droplet size is going to be really important too. So even once we know what equipment we're using and what pests that we're targeting, we need to know what droplet size is appropriate for the target pest. Is it a really tiny insect and we could use a tiny droplet, or is it a bigger insect and we need a bigger droplet? And then the only other thing I'd take into consideration is that there really might be restrictions from the area that you want to apply in, where they actually are able to dictate what is appropriate there. And we need to be really aware of that and follow those rules, whether it's the interior versus the exterior, or a residential facility versus a commercial facility, sensitive facilities, etc. All of this is going to play a really important part into figuring out what piece of equipment is going to do the job and working with that chemical. So that chemical will always have a label and instructions, and following that will get you to what piece of equipment to use, and then using that equipment properly should get control.
All right. Sometimes the people confuse about the droplet size, for example. And sometimes people don't understand the difference or the relationships story, the relationship between the droplet size and the residuality.
Mhm.
And sometimes most of the people apply, for example, fogger or mist, thinking about they believe in that will have some residuality and confuse sometimes the relationship that the bigger droplet you have, more residuality you have to.
Mhm.
So you can speak to speak us about something like that. Can
Sure.
the people how the people can understand or can make to understand this relationship between droplet size and residuality in order
Yeah.
to the objective of their application, no? No?
So I think it can be very challenging to understand that relationship because many of us have only used sprayers. And
Mhm.
so if your background is such that you've always used, say, a handheld compressed air sprayer, you're really used to producing a spray. And that spray is probably about 200 micrometers or so for a diameter of a droplet. They're really big. They're big droplets. And we're used to putting that out there. And because it's so big, we're going to leave almost sort of a wet surface. And we expect, I think, once we start doing that, we expect that wet will be successful. If we leave something really wet, then we're going to get the job done. And that's really not always true. Sometimes we don't want to leave it that wet. And when we talk about droplet size, as we get smaller, so if we say 200 or so and up is for sprays, as we get lower, we're going to hit the misting range, which will be, say, 100 or so, and aerosol, which will be a little lower, and then fogging, which can get from 0 to, say, 50 micrometers for droplet size. And when you get to droplet sizes that are that small, you can't see them. So when you apply that fog into the air and you can't see anything coming out, it's hard for us, right, as people, because we want to see what we're producing.
Mhm.
And so we don't actually think anything is there, but it is there. It's just such tiny droplets that we can't see it. And what'll happen is those tiny droplets will stay in the air so that they're just around us. And of course, we're protected. We have our protective gear. But any insect that is flying around, say mosquitoes, they're going to fly and come into contact with that droplet that's staying in the air for a really long time. And we'll find that that's a lot more successful than if we took those 200 micrometer droplets and we put them on a surface. Because when we do that, that droplet is so heavy that it just sits on the surface or on the leaf. And that same mosquito has to actively fly over and sit on it. It has to contact it. Whereas if it's in the air and a mosquito just flies into it, then we're going to get control a lot faster. It's going to be a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is really challenging to sort of wrap our heads around, that sometimes we really won't see the formulation because we're using such small droplet sizes. But that doesn't mean it's not working. In fact, that probably means it's working really well if it's the right choice for that problem.
Okay. And what about the best formulation for each equipment? What equipment type? What thinking about it? Which formulation could be better, or the different types of equipments?
So the formulation, many formulations will actually be successful in different types of pieces of equipment. So there are some formulations out there that are water-based and some that are oil-based. And that'll be the first thing we'll look at, because some of our equipment won't be compatible with oil-based formulations. And some of our equipment may not be compatible with water-based formulations, right? Some of them are going to be totally fine with both. And then when we look at that label and we see how that formulation was made and what it was designed to do, some of those formulations will have, 6 different ways you can apply it. It'll say you can put it in a sprayer, you could put it in a fogger, you can mix it up and you can paint it. It will list all the different ways that you can apply it. And then you, as the user, look at that list and say, okay, I need to use it this way because I'm trying to kill this pest in this area. So once you've identified what is most likely for your situation, then you can choose the right equipment. But there's many formulations that you could use all different equipments for. It'll just be totally dependent on what your end goal is, right? There are certainly some that can only be used in a fogger or some that can only be used in a sprayer. And those labels will say that, and it'll be very clear that you can't, it just won't be successful if you put it into a piece of equipment it wasn't designed for.
Okay, thank you. And now, when you buy any equipment, very good equipment, obviously, you wait that your equipment, you can use it for a year and a year and a year and a year in good conditions. So when we have the best pesticide, the very clear plan to pest control, but what is your recommendation? How the PCO can get the most out of its equipment? I don't know, talking about maintenance, the care, all the life of the equipment. How can prolong the life, the useful life of the equipment? Have you any recommendation about it?
For sure. So I think that's such an important part of our job, right? We get new equipment and it's shiny and new and it works great. But most of it is designed to last, like you said, for years and years. For the B&G equipment, we make them with the plan that you use them for 20-something years. That's what we expect. So when we get that shiny new B&G sprayer, it's going to work as you wanted initially. But over time, it's going to need basic maintenance and repair, right? So I would say regularly, we should be calibrating our sprayers and making sure that we're getting the right output that we expect. And whether that's a B&G sprayer or another brand, all you got to do is look and see what the user manual recommends for calibration and how much we should be coming out. And that's going to give you a really good idea on whether or not we need to do additional maintenance. I think that cleaning and storage is really, really important. So we're always going to, again, follow that label for the formulation, because whatever formulation we choose will have specific rules for cleaning. And then we're going to look at that equipment and see how we can clean it. Usually it's a triple rinse where we're cleaning the inside 3 times with water, possibly with an approved cleaner. We're always going to want to store it empty. Keep it nice and clean, store it with nothing inside of it. And we got to be very mindful of extreme temperatures. So whether it's very extreme heat or extreme cold, we can have things happen to our sprayer that we don't want to happen, right? And so if we're keeping it clean and empty and stored in a nice sort of medium temperature, we're going to see it be much more effective for years to come. And then all of our equipment, it's well loved, it's well used, so it's going to need regular maintenance. It's not designed to be thrown out. We don't replace it every year. It is designed to have the parts replaced, though. So some of the parts are going to need regular replacement. For your compressed air sprayers, that's your gaskets, your seals, your washers, your springs. Those are regularly going to need to be changed. So I always recommend you have them handy. Have a little container of those parts so that you can always switch them out when you need to. And then I also recommend that you get really familiar with your sprayer. Some of us get a little nervous taking apart a sprayer because it's an expensive piece of equipment. But remember, it is designed to do that. It is designed to be taken apart. It's designed to have parts replaced. So there's lots of resources out there. For B&G, we have posters that we print that have all the different parts and big schematic that shows where the parts go. We have lots of different videos on how to repair different parts of your B&G sprayer for all the common things, right? Like if your tank isn't holding pressure, or is holding pressure, but it doesn't spray, we may need to clean the strainer, right? We may need to replace the nozzle. If the tank can't hold pressure, the plunger cap may need to be replaced. It may be damaged, or the pressure plate, or the check valve. So those are the sort of things that once you start taking apart your sprayer and playing with it a little bit and getting familiar with it, you really get comfortable identifying those parts and seeing that they're damaged or that they are broken and they need to be replaced. And that would be my biggest recommendation. Don't be scared to actually take it apart and become familiar with it, because it's designed for that. It's designed to be repaired for years and years and years.
Perfect. There's difference with P&G against other brands. No?
Yeah.
Another question. Well, I have most questions, some questions, but another question before we will talking about the homemade applicators or equipment. How important do you think is the calibration and the nozzle selections to the success in the pest control plan?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think that there are some sprayers where you have a whole range of nozzles that produce different shapes, that produce different quantity, right? All of your nozzles are going to have flow rates. So they're saying just how much liquid is leaving that nozzle in a specific amount of time. And if you are applying and you aren't using the appropriate nozzle for the application, you could be putting out less or more than you want to, right? And that's problematic, not only because of whatever laws are in place regarding that application, but you also could just be wasting money, just trying to apply chemical that isn't actually doing any good. So I do think that we should be calibrating more to make sure that our nozzles are behaving the way that we want them to. And some are really great at that. Some are calibrating every day, others every week. I think it depends a little bit on how much we're using our sprayer. If we're not using it all the time, we can get away with calibrating it a little less. But I think you want to know exactly what your sprayer is producing so that you know exactly what chemicals are going out there, and so that your treatment is actually appropriate for what your target pest is. So I'm a big advocate of calibrating. I know it's not much fun and it's a lot of math. And we don't always like that, but it's the best way to ensure that you're putting out the right amount of chemical for the job.
Yes, of course. So, the final question. Thank you very much.
Of course.
As I told you when we start, since the pandemic situation and because most of the people use foggers to contaminate sometimes against the virus. Many homemade equipment invaded the market. So, what's your opinion about all these homemade equipments or the low-cost equipment that are now in the market, and sometimes the people prefer to use it, thinking, I don't know, maybe instead less money, I don't know. In fact, what do you think about this situation right now?
Yeah. So I think that whenever there's a crisis, we as people want to immediately fix it. We want to find whatever works, and we sort of rush into it and hope for the best, right? And I think our pandemic situation was a little bit like that, where we had this really scary situation and we tried to figure out the best response to it. So you saw different groups doing different things for disinfection, right? You had cleaning companies and pest control companies that were using sprayers to apply disinfectants to surfaces. And then you had those that were using foggers that were applying it to the air. And at the time, I think we weren't really sure which was necessarily the best. We weren't sure which chemicals were going to be the most effective. We had our feelings about which one it would be, but we didn't really know. And then, like all of the pest control and cleaning industry, once we got a little further through it, then other companies started to create solutions until, like you said, there's eventually a sort of a homemade solution. At the end of the day, if we're delivering a disinfectant that is successful at removing the microbes, then that's great. Then that's all that we need. And maybe that's just a hand sprayer. Maybe that's fogging equipment. I think it's very dependent on what the environment is and what the area is. But where I get nervous is when we use these formulations, which do have risk with them, and we use them in a way that isn't safe, right? So if we're putting them into a piece of equipment that isn't designed to have it, or we need to have additional training in order to use it. Just as an example, we've seen that people will put these disinfectants into foggers and then apply throughout a room, but they're not using any protective gear, right? They don't have a mask on, they don't have gloves on. That's where I get really nervous about the misuse, because there's almost bigger risk to that user, right? As opposed to what they're trying to do and protect the area that they're in. So there's always going to be a lot of stuff on the market. And I think that's normal. We see it with pest control all the time, right? Bed bugs, there's so many different things out there, and you just sort of, you hope for the best. But I think it really speaks to why it's important that professionals are used for these types of applications, because they're the ones that have gone through that training. They're the ones that can choose the right chemical for the right piece of equipment, as we've talked about. And they're really going to be able to reduce all the risk that's there. Whereas the homemade equipment, you might totally be successful, and that's great, but you also might bring additional risk to yourself. And that's where it gets a little bit scary.
Of course. And finally, what's the future in equipments? What do you see in I don't know, 20, 30 years from now? What will happen in your opinion about the future of the equipment, the use of pesticide, the IPM in general? What's your vision of the future?
So my vision is a lot more automation. So we're seeing that already, where we see artificial intelligence, or AI, being used for different types of remote monitoring systems. We've seen that for rodent. Pelsis, my company, has a light trap out that is using AI. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And it's not intended to replace the pest control professional. It's intended to help them so that they can focus on the areas that really need their attention, instead of wasting time on checking traps, right? I think we're also going to see increased regulations on pesticides. And so because of that, I think the equipment companies will probably automate or start to automate their equipment more, so that there's actually measurement as to what is coming out that tells the user how much, liquid has been gone out, or how much, fogging formulation has gone out. I think we're going to see stuff like that in the future, where there's less chance for mistakes, less chance for error, where the user is just going to apply what he or she needs to apply. and count on the equipment to tell them if it was the right amount. And that's, that's far away in the future. I think there's a lot of really fun work that could be done on that. And certainly B&G is looking at all of those types of future endeavors. But I would be surprised if we don't see increased work on regulations and then increased automation for sure.
Oh, okay. Nice. Right. Finally, really. Can you talk about your company, B&G, what you are preparing, what you have now, some offer, new equipments, something, anything you want to talk about your company? What do you have now? What will you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So B&G focuses on liquid delivery systems, which are primarily sprayers. And as we talked about, they're designed to last for years and years. So one of the things that B&G right now is really focusing on is providing you the tools so that you can keep your machines running for years and years. So right now we're looking at all of our parts, our spare parts, and we're starting to build kits with them so that the end user can just order a kit for their sprayer and have everything they need. We're really working on accessibility to our different types of information. So we have many training videos that are out right now. Some are even in Spanish.
Oh, perfect.
That
perfect.
we can, yeah, I know, we're trying to get all of them in Spanish, but it takes time. So we're working on making all that information accessible so that the end user is able to really take ownership of their equipment and rebuild as necessary. We have a new product. It's actually a re-release. So you may have seen it a couple years ago, but we're re-releasing in this upcoming 2024 what we call the pressurized tank top. And what this is designed to do is release sort of the ergonomic stress that comes with using a compressed hand air sprayer that is manually pumped. Instead, this is charged and you put it on the sprayer, and it pumps it up. It gets it to about 28 or so PSI so that you don't have to manually pump it. Instead, it just stays pressurized for the entire service. So we're looking forward to that being released. I think it'll be very helpful to the safety of technicians out there and to make them a lot more efficient and save a lot of costs as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, and Anna, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
Anna, if you have any message, final message for our audience, mostly PCOs from Latin America, not only Mexico. We have people from Chile, Argentina, Colombia, etc. So, you have any final message for all the people connected now?
Well, I just want to say thank you. We really appreciate all the partnership, and we know that there's a lot of brands out there. So really appreciate that you are choosing B&G. And as I mentioned, we're really trying to build up our Spanish language resources to help support you, to help answer any questions that you have, and make sure that you have all the information you need so that you're using the products successfully. So yeah, so I just appreciate that partnership. So thank you.
No, thanks to you. So thank you very much, Anna. It's been a short talk, but very illustrative.
Good.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Again, sorry, I don't speak English since 6-7 years ago. So
your English is excellent.
Thank you.
It is.
No, I know it's not, but thank you very much.
It is.
Well, thank you. I hope we will talk about another things in the future. For now, thanks in the person name, in the name of Veseris for this interview. I don't know. I think this will be published in 22, November 22, I guess. We'll publish it in Facebook. You want to see,
Great.
to comment, in fact, you can.
Okay.
And again, thank you very much. And nice to
Great.
meet you. Nice to meet
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Right? Jesús,
Thank you very
¿quieres?
much, Ana, and also thank you, Hugo. It was a really good conference. Thank you for being in the pestweb podcast and for all your knowledge and all the time that you share with us. It was a very glad experience.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ahora yo creo que vamos a grabar las preguntas en español.
¿Sabes qué? Si quieres, eso estaba pensando hacerlo como tipo lo hacen en los Óscares, que van hablando en inglés, que se oye la voz en inglés y nada más por arribita está en español. Creo que va a ser más fácil. ¿O qué opinas?
No, mira, no sé. Además de que así no se dan cuenta que mi inglés no es tan bueno.
No sé si es
No,
bueno,
pero
lo que pasa es que siempre tenemos pues el acento, ¿no? El
Ah.
acento mexicano.
Sí, yo sé, no, y me falta muchísima práctica. De verdad que sí, tiene como 6, 7 años que no hablan inglés. Pero además yo creo que podría ser más práctico para la gente
Ajá.
que hacemos la pregunta en español.
Ujú.
Digamos, ahorita lo hacemos. De hecho, hice más de las que estaban planeadas, pero bueno, las podemos
¿Pero
hacer
te
de otra
acuerdas
manera.
cuáles hiciste? O sea, para
Más,
ponerlas en español.
estaba tratando de escribir, pero dije, no lo voy a seguir tecleando porque se va a escuchar cuando ella
Sí,
conteste.
claro.
Y no tenía, digo, error mío, no puse un cuaderno a la mano. Traté de escribir en la computadora, pero oí que mi teclado se oía. Dije, no, mejor, a lo mejor lo reviso. Y hago las que ahorita me acuerdo y si falta una,
Ajá,
a lo mejor hoy mismo la hacemos para que esté vestido igual.
claro,
Porque también voy a hacer el video introductorio con esa misma ropa de top, para que se vea
claro.
que hay una continuidad. Y también lo voy a hacer en español, no tiene caso que lo diga en inglés.
Ujú.
Y esas son 5 minutos, algo así. Máximo 10 de explicación. Y mejor intercalarlas, para que
Ok,
también, supongo que también va a intervenir Ale, que pues, la presentación la hagan en español también. O sea, cuando yo le
ajá,
diga, bueno, pues esta es nuestra invitada, si quieres, bueno, nada más ese pedacito, cuando yo haga la introducción, sigo usando ese pedacito en inglés para que sea como que estoy hablándole a Ana,
ujú.
y que Ale haga la presentación en español. Digo, al final de cuentas, pues, los que interesan son los que vean el video, no
Claro.
Ana, ¿no? Ana ya
Ujú.
participó como quiera que sea. ¿Qué te parece?
Pues bien, si quieres grabamos eso, las preguntas en español, tú las haces y puedo le voy a preguntar a Ale qué prefiere o si hago las dos, de poner los subtítulos abajo y aparte como hablar en español arriba de lo que están diciendo o qué sería más fácil para el oyente.
Pues podría ser, bueno, y si no, bueno, a ver, vamos a ver. A ver, vamos entonces, a ver, déjame acordarme de las preguntas. A ver, entonces grabo.
Sí,
Lo
perfecto.
voy a ponerla acá voy a poner el frente porque si no se va a ver que estoy volteando. Y lo voy a poner el frente, es que necesito el guión. Ok, ya está. Bueno, voy a darla también la bienvenida en español y empezar con las preguntas. Bueno, voy, ¿eh? Está grabando, ustedes lo van editando.
Sí, acá lo editamos.
Pues bienvenida, Ana. Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Y si te parece, vamos a empezar con la primera pregunta. El día de hoy, los plaguicidas pues, son lo más utilizado realmente en el control de plagas en general, dentro del cuadro de manejo integrado de plagas. Los plaguicidas son los preferidos, como principal herramienta para los profesionales de control de plagas. Todo el mundo comenta y sabe y he escuchado acerca de las formulaciones, la mejor selección del plaguicida, cómo hacer las mezclas, cómo dosificar. Sin embargo, la mayoría de las veces la gente se olvida de cómo seleccionar el mejor equipo, cómo hacer una mejor compra, el equipo ideal para poder obtener el éxito en sus aplicaciones. ¿Tú podrías platicarnos un poco acerca de cómo hacer la mejor compra, la mejor selección del equipo de aplicación? Ya, así, ¿no? Luego, ¿qué le pregunté? Ay, es que no, ¿por qué no los? Es que sí, me voy a acercar un cuaderno para acordarme. Luego, a ver, luego, ¿qué le pregunté? A ver si te acuerdas tú. Mm, sobre el tamaño de gota, creo, ¿no?
Ajá, eso sí le preguntaste el de la bota.
Sí. Oye, y hay también un aspecto importante o interesante. Es frecuente que la gente no comprenda muy bien la relación entre el tamaño de gota y la residualidad. A veces se supone que en una nebulización se puede obtener cierto nivel de residualidad, olvidándose de la relación que puede haber entre el tamaño de gota y la residualidad que puedan llegar a obtener. Entonces, me gustaría si tú podrías ayudarnos un poco en comentarnos al respecto, acerca de la relación entre tamaño de gota y residualidad, por favor. Ya. Luego hubo otra
Preguntaste algo de los equipos como chafitas.
no, pero eso fue el
Ajá.
final, ¿no?
Sí, al final.
Final,
Recuerdo
es
esa.
que, o sea, aquí tengo las tres principales, pero hice
Ajá.
tres más. Hice la de las gotas, la de qué tan importante es la calibración.
Ajá.
Otro aspecto interesante e importante, Ana, es el tema de la calibración, que también a veces se llega a olvidar. ¿Qué tan importante es para obtener o alcanzar el éxito en los programas de control de plagas, por lo tanto, en las aplicaciones incluidas en el mismo, en la calibración de los equipos de una manera regular y sobre todo también en la selección de las boquillas que pueden llegar a utilizar? ¿Nos puedes platicar un poco sobre eso? ¿Está? Luego, el de los equipos chafitas que tú decías. Y ahorita me acuerdo de la otra. Si no, ahorita podemos ver la grabación y hacemos otra grabación, si te parece. Eh, Digo que también es otra cosa que les voy a pedir, si me dan chance, un poco de, también comodidad mía, si ustedes quieren, antes de que se publique, si me dan chance de ver la grabación.
Ah, claro, se la pido a Alan
¿Sí?
para que te lo pase
Sí,
también.
antes de que la publiquen, porfa.
Sí, sí, claro.
¿Sí? Bueno, a ver, va la pregunta de los equipos chafitas. Oye, ocurrió un fenómeno, bueno, voy a dar tiempo para que hagan el corte. Ana, a raíz de la pandemia y posterior a ella, hubo un fenómeno, creo que bastante interesante, del que, bueno, esto ya ocurría, pero hubo una explosión muy particular, en el que empezaron a surgir equipos un poco hechos en casa, hechizos que decimos nosotros, que empezaron a invadir el mercado, sobre todo por la creencia de que la nebulización era el mejor método para desinfectar contra el virus del COVID. Hoy sabemos que no es así, pero bueno, en ese momento era la solución que la gente veía y empezó a haber una gran oferta de productos, pues prácticamente hechos en casa. Y obviamente con un costo inferior, a que además se vinieron sumando a los ya económicos que existían en el mercado. Esta fue una problemática, obviamente, en el tema de calidad, que quizá en su momento no se notó tanto, porque, bueno, no había tanto una medida de la efectividad con respecto al virus, pero obviamente esto ya lo estamos viendo ahora con su uso ya de manera regular contra insectos, principalmente. ¿Qué opinas tú de esta situación? Ahí está. A ver, ¿cuál otra? Me falta una.
También le dijiste una de que si quería decir algo de su marca o de
Ah,
productos que iba a
sí, sí,
sacar
sí.
BNG, ajá.
Ah, y las últimas recomendaciones, sí. Pues muchas gracias, Ana. No sé, ya hablemos de la compañía que representas. ¿Qué nos puedes platicar de B&G? ¿Qué es lo que tienen actualmente? ¿Qué están preparando? ¿Qué están ofreciendo justamente para el profesional de control de plagas? Por favor, platícanos. y luego lo del mensaje final, ¿no? Pues, oye, han sido muy interesante. No sé si tú tengas algún último mensaje para nuestros escuchas, que tenemos representantes prácticamente de toda Latinoamérica, seguramente nos están escuchando y que también estarán interesados en lo que tú les puedas decir acerca del futuro, del control de plagas, de lo que viene, de lo que es hoy, y qué es lo que visualizas tú que vaya a ocurrir o que va a suceder en este mercado o en esta actividad en los próximos 10, 20, 30 años. ¿Cuál es tu visión del futuro de esta actividad? O me sigue faltando una.
Porque si no, lo que podemos hacer es que te mando el video, ahorita se lo pido a Alan,
Ajá.
y ya si se nos fue alguna pregunta, pues ya la grabamos.
Sí, pero idealmente sería hoy porque ya para mañana mi ropa está sucia. Entonces.
Sí, ahorita se lo pido de una vez para que te lo vaya
¿Sí?
mandando hoy.
Sí, porque yo también quiero hacer la grabación de la introducción de una vez hoy,
Sí, claro.
para mandárselas y ya peguen todo.
Ujú.
Y yo les comentaba que yo de todas maneras ese día me voy a conectar, voy a tratar de traerle una ropa, pero bueno, me va a dar tiempo a que la lave, por supuesto, de aquí a ese día, el día 22 si no me equivoco, para que
Sí, ahorita te
surgiera
colaboro.
algo, alguna pregunta, algo así, pues yo estar ahí. Que ya sé que no es en vivo totalmente, porque pareciera, era lo más parecido, estar en vivo. Pero pues lo demás lo pueden poner
Sí,
este,
claro.
grabado, poner toda la grabación como tal.
Sí, o sea, como tal no habría preguntas a Ana porque pues no va a estar. O
Eh,
bueno,
que-
no
que
sé, le podría preguntar porque podríamos traducirle. Le voy a
también,
preguntar si puede. Ajá.
también podría ser, o o mira, la verdad es que la mayoría de los en vivo casi no ha habido preguntas.
Sí,
Entonces, igual a lo mejor este tiempo adicional, a lo mejor estando ahí, sí, ya lo hacemos en vivo, preguntar, y bueno, ¿cuáles son los planes? Bueno, que el cierre lo haga Ale y hablando del próximos eventos, lo que tenga que hacer, ya con eso cerramos.
sí, sí es el 22, ya lo confirmé.
¿Ya? El 22, ¿a qué
Ya.
horas? ¿A las 5?
Ajá, exactamente.
Ok, ok. Bueno, tenemos tiempo para afinar detalles. Tenemos 6 días.
Ujú.
Entonces, es que ¿por qué no me saqué de acuerdo? Es que no lo pensé, la verdad, dije, va a ser así de corrido, pero casi siempre tengo aquí una libreta. Y sí tengo aquí a un lado, pero me iba a tener que agachar, porque aquí la
Sí,
tengo. Pero iba a ser, ay, no
sí,
era lo
pero no te
correcto.
preocupes, ahorita te mando, o le pido a Alan que te mande el video y ya, cualquiera, si faltó una o dos, pues ya.
Creo que faltó nada más una.
Sí, yo también siento que había una extra, pero no me
¿Cuál
acuerdo cuál
era?
es.
¿Qué más le pregunté? El tamaño de gota, calibración, el mantenimiento. Bueno, a ver, yo que estoy al pendiente,
Ujú.
espero que no sea, por favor, que no sea muy tarde.
Sí, sí, no, ahorita mismo se lo pido.
¿Sí? Ah,
Sí,
ok, ok. Y luego ya que lo editemos.
sí, seguramente lo va a mandar por WeTransfer o algo así.
Sí, sí, sí. Sí, yo aquí estoy al pendiente. Sí, sí, tengo que ser al rato, pero estoy al pendiente. Mejor los espero.
Ujú.
Los checamos.
Va, perfecto.
¿Vale? Hecho. Pues muchas gracias. Y
Gracias
pues
a ti, Hugo.
a ver si a Ale le gustó.
Sí, no, salió bien, o sea, aquí como escucha estuvo interesante.
No, sí, digo, lamentablemente ya no se explayó tanto,
Ujú.
así que va a ser un en vivo un poquito más cortito, pero creo que bastante nutritivo.
Sí, claro.
Porque sí, bueno, lo que me gustó es que fue muy puntual. Yo
Ujú.
esperaba sí que se explayara más, pero pues a lo mejor así son allá, ¿no? Muy al grano, pero tampoco hubo mucha paja en realidad. Fue a lo que era.
Sí, de acuerdo.
Eso fue la ventaja. Bueno, pues muchas gracias y pues yo aquí espero para el rato checar.
Va que ahora lo pido
Tal,
para que
tal.
nos ayude, Alan. Gracias,
Gracias.
Hugo.
No, gracias a
Cuídate.
ustedes. Chao.
Chao.
No,
Bye, bye. Bye, Alan. Bueno, no
lo
sé si
digo.
todavía está por ahí. Ah, sí, sí está.
Sí, sí, aquí anda.
Sí, por aquí
Eso.
andaba, ya pendiente para
Alan, ¿nos
terminar la
puedes
grabación.
ayudar con eso, con la grabación para mandársela a Hugo? Porfa.
Sí, por supuesto que necesitan el audio, el video, todo. ¿Qué?
Todo, todo. O sea, de hecho, pues córtale aquí para que ya no sea más largo. Así deja de grabar ahorita.
Bueno.
Ya ponle stop. Y ahorita ya.